Hey, welcome to vidcast episode 3 of Epigenetics Unleashed. Today is about epigenetics in physical and mental health. The first thing I want to touch on is epigenetics again, just in case you haven't been around here. So epigenetics is the study of how the environment influences your genes to either switch on or off. And basically by the new information available today and the science and the understanding of that, we are able to create precision health information to make sure that you can become your best self and move away from illness and injury and disease and things like that. So one of the things I do want to touch on right now is a little quote sort of thing I've come up with in the last 24 hours, just seeing things amongst a few of my clients who have been sick lately. And what I've written is, our body keeps the score, our body shape tells us where and why, then epigenetics tells us how to improve it. Epigenetics in terms of like the PH 360 educational system we use, as well as the artificial intelligence Shay that helps us personalize an individual's profile. Through this information over the last 24 hours, I've been able to find like people telling me what sort of sicknesses they are and seeing how stress and certain things that they've been doing to their body may have manifested in these types of injuries or these chest congestion issues. And it's just incredible to understand, like, we have the tools now to understand certain people are predisposed to certain things. So as we move on into physical and mental health, the next thing I want to touch on is something that was given to me by Dr. Cam in a presentation. And basically it was, when we talk about mental health, we need to understand that it's on a spectrum. What I mean by that is it's not it's good, it's bad. It's okay, where does your mental health lie on this continuum? On this continuum, if you're not watching the video, I'll try and chuck some things up. Diagnosed mental health condition is obviously like the far negative end. And then to the far right, your best mental health day ever. Now, when I propose this question to people in speeches, in the gym and whatnot, I ask, have you ever thought of your best mental health day? And people are blank. Everyone knows when they've had a shit day, but no one actually knows what it takes to have their best mental health day. And by being clear and seeing your mental health on a spectrum, what we can do is begin to understand and build awareness around, all right, where do I sit today? What actions have I done? What actions could I do to either bring that level up or bring that level down? We all know there's certain things that could happen in our day that drastically reduce our mental health, but becoming more aware of what you can do to take your mental health from where it is to where you would like it to be is the real key in understanding mental health. So some of the things with mental health, psychological stress really plays a large impact. There is things like social health, there's expectations amongst others, there's connection with people, certain life events can happen, and your career, your day-to-day life can really impact the way your stress levels are. Some of the ways to improve that is like understanding how to manage your mind. How do you react in these situations? So build awareness around your behaviors. What belief systems do you have in place that are causing you to think this way? And do you feel like you have control over these areas? And if not, that's probably going to lead to more stress. And are you actually contributing to other people in your life? Because contribution is one of the greatest things we can do in order to feel better about ourselves. When we look at physical stresses, we're looking at things like food, your inputs. So food, exercise, your sleep, your outdoor environment, and your indoor environment. What we need to understand though is these things aren't the cure to everything. It definitely has a massive influence on how you feel and function, but it's not going to absolutely solve everything by just going for a run. And I think that's where people with mental health get really upset at the fitness community or people who feel good on a mental basis because they just say, oh, just exercise. And it's not just that. And the reason I want to touch on that is because when we look deeper into understanding people on an epigenetic level, we actually have biological differences. So for some people, yes, food and fitness is going to have a dramatic impact on the way they feel really quickly. Versus other people, which we'll take a look at, actually need a bit more of other things to support them. So we need to understand your biological makeup influences the things that are going to make you better. Even doing things at the wrong time can have a massive impact on how you feel. I do want to add one more note around that mental health stuff. So even Dr. Cam mentioned, even when you are having like your worst mental health day ever, there could be glimpses in the day where you actually have a happy moment, a varying emotion that you can actually look for and enjoy. Because if we label ourselves with certain things, sometimes we limit ourselves from seeing what could have been or what is, because we keep focusing on the negative outcome. Hope that makes sense. Comment, message me if it doesn't. I'd love to have a chat about it, because I think we limit ourselves based on the words we use because we give meaning to situations, and then that kind of derives the actions that we do from it. Self-awareness. Now, building this self-awareness is great. Understanding yourself on this deeper, more epigenetic level, where you can understand your genes, your functions, then you're going to have the greatest results in terms of being able to move the needle forward or backwards, whatever you want to do, in terms of that mental health well-being spectrum. So some of the things typical people talk about when building awareness is, journaling, getting feedback from other people, some coaching, offering self-compassion to yourself, stop being so hard on yourself, understanding what values you have, understanding what strengths you have, and things that you can focus on in the future. The hard part about that is if you're very general with people and you don't understand their biology, you could give them suggestions that work for you, but not for them. And there's reasons for that, because when you understand the health type lens and the epigenetics, your hormonal predispositions actually influence your behaviors and the way you think. So certain ways of doing things aren't going to respond really well with people. What we'll do is we'll dive into the health type lens. So the last session we dived into the health types, understanding that. So if you want to go back and watch that, please do. What we're going to do is compare opposite sides of the circle and just see how the health related information can maybe be different for those people and also help people in these areas move forward. So the first two we're going to look at is the activator, that more reactive person. Next one is the diplomat, the more agreeable introverted person. What we remember with the activator, they typically love challenges, they're high energy, sometimes they got told they're too much, and that can really impact their mental health. They're usually more muscular and have a V-shaped sort of build. What we notice with activators, when they are out of flow or lower mental health, they can be very angry, they can be direct, it can be very confrontational. They blame a lot of people, they're emotional, they're one way, they're not open to suggestions. So when they're really hyped up, all that testosterone and just that energy needs to be released. So for an activator, yes, fitness is going to be something that works really well for them. But then their next priority is food also. So food is going to have a great impact on this person. They could be hangry, not just angry. And when we can understand that and not just say everyone's hangry, but based on the individual, we can have a greater impact on how they feel and how they function in the environment. And the important part for that is, like, if we can help people understand themselves better so they're better in the communities, then the community becomes better because we're not having issues with people and people are more respectful and, less reactive to other people, which influences other people's days. When we look at the other side of the circle, so the diplomat, typically we find they are taller, broader, more enduring people. They really focus on time and space, and they're like very considered thinkers. With this health type, they're typically more of a later chronotype. So if this person is typically stressed, having really bad mental health, maybe what we need to look at is what time of the day they're doing certain tasks. For the diplomat, when they are stressed, they can become very hesitant to go along with things. They don't want to be confrontational, so they might withdraw. And they'll have internal disagreements with themselves, even though they may communicate with you that it's okay. So noticing that sort of ghosting or just not really open communication could be a sign that a diplomat is struggling. When we look at the diplomat, the first two things that we can look at improving is their place. Is their place neat and tidy? Is it suitable to their actual needs, or are they stuck in an environment where they can't necessarily control? Could they go outside? Could they spend some time in nature to improve their mental health? The next is genius. Are they stuck in a job that's really not leveraging their natural strengths and their genius, and it's really affecting them on a deeper level? So notice how they're two very different things. One's all about action, movement, challenge, and food. The other's about their location and what they're thinking about, because they are a little bit more neural based versus the mesomorph, the activator, who is more physically inclined to do activity. Then if we look at comparing a crusader, which I am, to a guardian, so crusaders are more conscientious. They're just looking for that future purpose, that goal-orientated sort of mission-driven purpose. Then we look at the guardian, who just wants to be stable, secure, nurturing, and loving. Two very different types of people, so giving them advice needs to vary. With the crusader, as I said, that dopamine that fix on the reward system, what we find with them, they're typically leaner. For me, I'm bigger. I sit towards the 80 degree on the circle. I have some diplo crossover, which is very interesting. Generally taller than activators. They can put muscle on, but do find it harder, and they do enjoy exercise, but you really need to convince them the positives of why before they switch over. What it means for these people, they need to be purpose driven. They're very logical. They follow rules unless they do not make sense. And that's why giving them the right approach for their mental health is really important. For this person, when they are stressed, you're going to notice they are hyper focused on a certain thing. They are rigid in attitude, skeptical. They can be very egotistical. I am more right is a common statement you may hear. They don't really have time for anything else because their focus lies with that one main mission. They prefer autonomy, so you could tell them to do things, but if it doesn't align with what they kind of want to do or achieve, good luck getting them to change. And then they pull away from others, from help, and they'll just stop asking for help because they get stuck and they just want to focus and do what they think they need to do to move forward. And this can really hold them back when they're in a stressed state. Versus when we look at the Guardian, so the Guardian are like the thicker frame, they can be short or tall, they put on weight really easy, their hormonal influence is more nurturing, so what we notice is they're more enduring in terms of stress, but they will put weight on when heavily stressed. It's a mechanism that allows them to feel safe and stable. They're a late chronotype, so doing things in the morning can actually stress them out, which can impact their mental health. What we see with the Guardian is they can also be stubborn, but it's more so stubborn in terms of a not wanting to move, stubborn or change, versus the Crusader is like doing one straight line, still going, stubborn, not getting affected by anyone's decisions. They can be smothering. So I know of stories where mothers who probably Guardians have been smothering for children, which leads to stress because the kid doesn't respond to that and then they can't nurture correctly. They get worried really easy. They don't take care of themselves. So typically what they'll do is they put themselves last and they'll really focus on everyone else, even though to reduce that stress, they need to focus on themselves and make changes. They'll have food cravings and they'll be demotivated. So imagine those two mixed together, the food cravings and the demotivated. What would happen? You're probably going to put on weight, right? Because you're not going to want to move. You're not going to want to eat the right foods because you're going to have cravings for sugary foods, because it's very rare people have cravings for natural foods. So when we look at the advice offering for these two different health types, for the Crusader, we need to clear their minds. And the mind more so for the Crusader is in terms of purpose, in terms of goal-orientated outcomes. If we can give them a clear directive to get out of the pain and stress that they're in and achieve their goal along the way, rather than just focusing on the past or the pain, then we'll notice a great improvement. The next step is the Genius. Make sure the work that they are doing is aligned with the goals that they want, just so that they can head in that direction that they're wanting to go. Then we have the Guardian, the social. So they need to feel loved and secured and supported in order to make changes. Once this is kind of in place, their stress levels are going to decrease, and we're also going to look at the time they're doing certain things. But then we have food. So the food is important for them. They have that larger digestive system that really has an impact on how their body's ability to absorb food can increase or decrease. When we look at the next health type, so the two next health types we have are the Connector and the Sensor. The Connector is that more extroverted nature. So typically they can put on more muscle and fat. They're stuck between the Activator and the Guardian. They are mesomorphic, but they have big joints. They gain weight with stress, and they also have a strong gut. So they're very adaptable in terms of what they can do with their body. When we look at the Connector's hormone driver, it's oxytocin. So they crave that connection and that love. In terms of mental health for them, they're actually one of the most predisposed to, if they don't have enough vitamin D, sun, they're going to be depressed the easiest. Other things we'll notice about a Connector when they are overly stressed or suffering from poor mental health, they're going to be even more extroverted. They might put themselves out there in negative ways. They will seek novelty just to change things up. They really need variety in their lifestyle. They can be very talkative, and it can be very painful for people who just want to just be at peace. They can be chaotic. They follow others, even though they may not they're very good at being chameleons. And if they're not in the right atmosphere or the right headspace, they might follow people into the wrong places. They can be flighty, so disappear without even knowing. And then unreliable in terms of they've just got too much going on. They want to be here, they want to be there. So you can't really rely on what they choose. Those are a couple of signs of understanding how a Connector could express their poor mental health. Then if we look at the Sensor, there's typically that thinner frame, not much bone or fat. They're lean, there's less muscle. Their digestive system is also weaker because they're more neural based. With the Sensor, what we'll also notice is they really get stuck following rules. So when it comes to their mental health, they can become very closed, pedantic, very critical of others, even themselves, withdrawn from things, very harsh in their words, and then cold to other people. So they really close themselves off. And that's that introverted nature really acting out to keep them in line with their biology, just not in a positive sense. So when we compare the two, When we compare the two, so we have the sensor. Sensor is also mind, but mind in terms of safety versus a crusader, what we saw was mind was in terms of purpose and direction. Then once the sensor feels safe and secure in what they're doing, the people they're around, then they can move on to the next priority to improve their mental health, and that is place. So is this place I'm actually in feeling safe? And when they feel that, then we're going to notice a massive decrease in their stress levels, and they're going to be able to function a lot better and feel a lot better. When we look at the connector, they also have mind as their first priority, but it's from a different perspective. And that's what's cool with this lens. We understand like the same words could have a different meaning biologically for these different health types. For the connector, the mind is in terms of, do I feel positive about myself? Am I connecting with myself? Do I like myself? And when we can reduce that negative self-judgment sort of picture, then you're able to communicate with others better because you're not judging yourself so much. Someone who judges themselves a lot can have a lot of social issues because they think other people think the same way, and then it just creates this negative cycle for them. Once that mind is in place, then we can look at social, looking for positive places to be a part of to make sure that your goals are aligned with the social people you're hanging out with, not just necessarily that connection, because connecting with the wrong people can cause some health issues as well. Once you have those two in place, then it's just place. So they need places that are, fun, have a lot of variety and whatnot. That's kind of the end of the mental health sort of understanding of the health types. With mental health, it plays a huge part in how you perform and feel and function, right? So that's the physical health side of things. When I bring it back to just to summarize that last little point. So in the last week or so, I've noticed a few clients getting sick. And really this whole stress, this mental health, this over cognitive load really influences how other things behave. But the interesting thing is when we look at how our body keeps the score, when we understand epigenetics and we leverage the AI systems and Shay and we dive into the back end of the coaching profile, I can see that the parts of them, like we have a client whose shoulder was playing up and then she got fully hit and run down. And in the information, it shows us why her body shape and type, her biotrend is what it says in the back profile, actually may have these issues based on stress and previous things that are going on. And it's led to this state. So understanding that when you can get your body in harmony, when you can get it aligned with the things it needs to do, you're going to avoid certain predispositions. And it's just so interesting that the body is able to show it in a certain point. And now this is making more sense. So I'm just thinking back to a call with Matt Riemann where he talked about this, and people talk about how certain emotions hurt in certain places. And he's like, kind of, but not completely. And now this is just blown my mind because I understand now, like for this person, their shoulder hurts because of these reasons. And as we unpack people and understand through biology, then we can understand how to help them best and move forward and really help them improve these things. And you can imagine the impact that has. Like, if someone has a sore shoulder, can't go to work, really impacting their life, it's going to cause more stress. The shoulder's probably going to get worse. The stress level is going to increase. The digestive system may get even worse if it's for that certain biotrend because that's how their system's connected. So I hope you followed along. I hope you found it interesting. Comment below if you want to learn more. Check out my profile on Instagram. I like to connect with people and share this information. So we have some cool stuff on there as well. Just know, your body keeps the score. If we can find the best way to align you with what it actually needs, we can move you towards your best life where you can, live healthy, happy, disease-free, and just get the most out of every single day because we're only here for a limited amount of time. And when we do that, we feel better, we interact better with the community, with the environment, and we create better connections. And life is just a lot better in general. So I hope you found that interesting, and we'll chat soon.